Okay, we live?
Almost. Couple more seconds. One, two, 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 two. All right, we're all good to go.
Excellent. So it is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is going to be a regular city council meeting of the city of Lake Stevens. This is remote access only via Zoom. We are also live on YouTube. It's Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. And with that, I would ask everyone to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent, thank you. And with that, City Clerk, can we get a roll call of City Council members? You're muted. Nope.
I'll go ahead and say present, but I can't hear you, Kelly.
Councilmember Peter Shagan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I'm present.
Thank you. Councilmember Frederick?
Present.
Can't hear you, Kelly.
All right. I'm going to note her for the record, Mayor, because I see her.
You went really faint on us, Kelly, for some reason. Nope.
Still can't hear me?
There you go.
Councilmember Dickinson?
Present.
Here. Oh, still don't have it, Kelly.
From someone else, I think we should mute everybody else.
Yeah, let me get some muting done here.
Okay, there. Councilmember Jorstad?
Present.
Okay. Councilmember Ewing?
Present.
Thank you. And Councilmember Tagent? You're muted, but I see your lips moving. Councilmember Tagent?
Present and or accounted for.
Thank you. All right. Everyone is here, Mayor.
All right, this is going to be a great evening. Okay, so with that, Council President Tagent, can you get an approval of the agenda?
Good afternoon, good evening, actually, Council. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I got a first. Can I get a second?
Second.
I got a second by Councilmember Steve Ewing. All in favor of the council agenda as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Any not for the council agenda as presented? No, so the motion will carry at 100%. There you go. Move forward, Mayor.
Excellent, thank you, President. Okay, so with that, we'll go to the next item, which is citizens' comments. In citizens' comments, we offer 3 minutes to any citizen to have the floor and to speak. And how we do citizens' comments is you can raise your hand or you can say your first name, and when I recognize you, you will have 3 minutes to speak. We ask that you give your name and your address. I'll run a timer. When you hear the timer, that means you have 10 seconds to wrap it up. So with that, is there anyone with citizens' comments tonight? Anyone with citizens' comments tonight? I'm not seeing any hands. Does anyone want to say their first name if they want to do citizens' comments?
They want out at 9 also.
Apparently. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody for citizens' comments. So with that, we will move to the next order of business, which is guest business. Eric.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Great pleasure to bring to you tonight our new stormwater coordinator. Her name is Shannon Ferrant, and she can wave on the screen there. I'll give her a moment to speak, but Shannon comes to us from Northern California, where she lived down near the town that had all the wildfires that nearly burned to the ground. So she moved to Lake Stevens about a year ago with her husband and her 2 kids. Her husband's an electrical engineer that worked at Boeing, but now he took a job with another aerospace company. And Shannon has been working for a consultant firm, I think in California, and then she transferred up here with the same firm when she got here. Like I mentioned, she has 2 kids, a girl 24 months old and a boy at 7 months. Her and her husband, in their spare time, they are real outdoorsy people, and they love to go camping and take road trips and kayak and hiking, pretty much anything outdoors. Shannon has a great background. She has an undergraduate in environmental science and a graduate degree in hydrologic sciences, specializing in surface and groundwater. So Shannon has a ton of experience with surface water and groundwater and environmental science. I think she's going to be a great addition to the city, and I want to introduce her tonight to all of you. So with that, I'll give Shannon a chance to say hi and take it away, Shannon.
Hi, thanks, Eric. As Eric said, my name is Shannon Front. I'm really excited to be working with the city of Lake Stevens. My family and I, we've lived here in Lake Stevens since we moved up to Washington just over a year ago. And we absolutely love it. We recently bought our house actually just down the street from the Public Works building. So it works out really well and convenient for me. We love the city here. We love all the activities. We're really excited to be raising our kids in this city, and I'm really excited to be a part of it moving forward. So thank you for having me. And Eric, thanks for the introduction. I look forward to the day that I get to meet everybody in person, hopefully sooner rather than later. But thanks for having me. This is my 2nd week with the city, so just more good things to come.
Just in time for the rainy season. Great.
Shannon, I'll say you're lucky because in non-COVID days, you used to have to run the gauntlet and have to shake all the council member hands. So
Hey, that's what Eric told me. I feel like I'm missing out, but I'll get to do it at some point.
well, welcome aboard, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Shannon.
Excellent. Yep. Great to have you on board, Shannon. So with that, let's go to council business. Council President.
All right. I have a different view on my computer tonight with this live on YouTube view. So I'll start with Council Member Mary Dickinson. You're the first one on my screen to see.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to join a group called the Council for Aging. I'm very excited about it. They reached out to me, and the CEO of that group lives in Lake Stevens, so that's really awesome. The library board is looking to fill 3 positions. I want to be sure you all heard that. The week's wrap up done by Dawn, and also what the mayor said at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. Both were amazing things. I so appreciate the mayor reaching out to everybody and Dawn doing such a fabulous job on the week's wrap up. Communication is really what we need now under these circumstances. So also the Senior Center is going to be offering a drive-by Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. And then they're going to take the weekend off. So if you come down to the Senior Center tomorrow at lunchtime, a free Thanksgiving dinner, a little early. Thank you.
Councilmember Steve Ewing.
Just wanted to recognize some of you guys are aware that the Dr. Eric Ross Smith, who's a Lake Stevens resident and also specializes in working with first responders in their wellness, suicide prevention, PTSD, and things like that. He was able to connect with the Lake Stevens Police Department and put on some training for them to help them with their circumstance. I want to thank him and Chief Dyer and Jim Barnes, who helped to facilitate that, and hopefully that'll be a good relationship going forward to help our police department.
Great, thank you, man. Thank you, council member. Council member Kim Daughtry.
Thank you, President. The only thing I have to report is on community transit. We've been doing several hours of Zoom calls. Those are getting really boring. But we've been interviewing for the new Chief Executive Officer for Community Transit. We've had people from all over the world come try to get in there. We've got it down to, I believe, 3 people now, maybe 4. We have some interviews scheduled coming up the 2nd of December for hopefully the final interviews. We've been hard at it. Some great people coming forward to be the CEO of CT this time. Like 6 years ago, we didn't have such great people coming in, but I'll tell you what, this is going to be a hard choice. But we're going to work on it, get it done. That's all I have to report.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Gary Petershagen.
Thank you, Councilmember Tangent. Just a big shout out to Public Works. It's just great to see we got streetlights at Lundin Park and Vernon Road, on up Lundin Parkway, I believe all the way up to about Bartels, if not 204. So nice to see some new streetlights. Been an area that's been a little dark on occasions, but it's great to see. So thank you.
Thank you. Council member Angie Jorstad.
Thank you. I have nothing to report this evening.
Great. Thank you. And who am I missing? Sorry, my screen's very limited.
Sean.
Councilmember Sean Frederick. Sorry, Sean. You're not right on my screen, right in front of my face. It's hard to see with this new format.
I can throw a ball across the street if that'll help. Really quick, DOH put out a message today, and I think it's worth saying, and I know I've been harping on this for months, and I'm going to keep doing it until there's no more harping to do. Wear a mask. In 1918, we're literally following exactly what happened in the 1918 pandemic. In April of that year, everyone wore masks, socially distanced, everything was closed down. Lots of people literally moved into tents where a lot of care was performed, and they flattened the curve. They thought that all the disease was under control, to the point that by the time they got to the holiday seasons, they had removed all the controls. And I'll spare you all the details, but more than half of the people that died during the pandemic died after the holiday season. I'm not going to tell you what to do or what not to do. This is an issue for individual responsibility, but everyone out there, make sure that everyone that you love is being responsible in whatever that activity is. Make good choices, wear a mask when appropriate, be distant when appropriate, make the hard choice now so we don't have to make worse visits later. Happy holidays.
What a great report, Councilman Frederick, from the health department. Thank you so much. And we all take your advice, so sincere. So thank you so much. And then lastly, I don't think there's anybody else, but for myself, happy Thanksgiving to those people who celebrate Thanksgiving. I will share a couple things with you. Working out the agenda for December 22nd. We don't have anything for the agenda. At the moment, I'm trying to see if we can fit everything into the agenda to have December the 22nd as not a council meeting. And then December the 29th would be the 5th Monday. So we wouldn't have a council meeting for the 29th. So we'll get a little bit of time off during the holiday season there. So that way people can celebrate with their families. Got a call from the owner of the Buzz Inn restaurants. They were broken into the other night, and our Lake Stevens Police Department caught the person who did it. Great news. And got looks like got all the information they needed to figure out who really did it. So I want to congratulate the police department to thank you for doing that. I know our business owners all tough times right now, but to find a person who broke in and the next day find them, that's a good thing. And I commend our police department for doing great work. Council, great job this year. As we start to wind down the end of the year, the staff is doing everything they can do to fit everything in. Before the end of the year, I anticipate the meeting of 12:15 to be a little bit more of a lengthy meeting to try to fit everything in. So that way, if December the 22nd and December the 29th normally don't have a meeting. At times we've had meetings at the end of the year, as that would be a fifth meeting. But sometimes we have budgets and things like that to finish up our little work to tidy up before the end of the year. So the staff are doing everything they can do to make it so that way we can celebrate the holiday season and perhaps not have a meeting towards the end of the year, but anticipate the 12/15 meeting to be a little bit more on the longer side, even though we start at 6 o'clock if we all approve tonight. But I enjoy the fact of being the council president this year, and that's all I have. Thank you so much. Mayor, with that, I will turn it back over to you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, council members. Good stuff going on out there in the community. Just a couple real quick things for me. We were able to get a fourth round of grants out, and some of our businesses were notified today of those grant awards, and we expect some additional money next week, hopefully, from the county that will include these same businesses on this round, and we'll be able to get even more money out. I took the opportunity to drive some applications around last week and talk to business owners who are doing anything and everything they can to expand capacity, especially within the restaurants, to expand outside, to expand into parking lot, wherever they can make it, and try to stay afloat during this time. So it was a good trip to make contact with those folks and see where they're at and help them out as we can. Also had a couple meetings lately with the CEO, Steve Corsi of the Volunteers of America, and in discussions with him on if we can get a community resource center back into Lake Stevens, possibly at the food bank, trying to see if we can't figure that out. It'd be a great resource together with the food bank in one location. So we're working with that. Steve, great guy. If you haven't met him, please reach out and say hi. And I think that's all I have for mayor's business. With that, is there any of the directors that have a report tonight? Eric.
I have one real brief one. I don't know if anybody's seen the news, but we got a Transportation Improvement Board grant for $3 million to help out with construction on 91st and 24th. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Grace Kane, because she did the lion's share of the work on that application, and they're quite lengthy, and a lot of details and a lot of data goes into submitting that grant and getting approval. So she did a fantastic job on it. I was very, very impressed. And so just a shout out to Grace for working so hard on that grant. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Eric, and thank you, Grace. If you don't know, that money was not in our budget. So that's free money for the project. So, any other directors with a report? Okay, not seeing anything. So with that, let's move to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Jorstad and a second from, I believe it was Councilmember Ewing. No? Who was it?
Councilmember
Jorstad.
And Ewing.
Sean.
Oh, so the second was Councilmember Frederick. Okay. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we passed the consent agenda and let's move to public hearing F, which is ordinance 1103, multifamily housing tax exemption program regulations. That will be the subject of the hearing, and we will open the public hearing. And with that, can I get a staff report from Sabrina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for your time this evening. So to add, I would like to just ensure that the GIS maps that you were distributed to council members in the previous meeting are included in the record. They are the same material that is provided in your packet. They have just been converted into a GIS format map for easy readability and to be included in the final ordinance. But to continue, again, as Mr. Mayor described, this is a public hearing for the city adoption for a multifamily tax exemption that is permitted through the RCW 8414. 8414 outlines the requirements for cities that wish to participate in this program. The council has been briefed on this in 2 previous times, and in the previous meeting postponed the hearing to this. And before that, passed a resolution to adopt the related target areas and set this hearing. To give a brief history, council voiced interest in adopting the multifamily tax exemption program. Staff gathered input from Planning Commission and City Council to put together the required target areas and perspectives on potential requirements for the amendment. Planning Commission and City Council supported adoption of both the 8-year exemption and 12-year exemption, which are allowed under the RCW, as well as inclusion of a minimum unit creation in the code amendment. The entirety of the code amendment is written to be in Title III to provide a more consolidated and user-friendly code. The amendment did not require a hearing with Planning Commission, and Planning Commission did not provide any further comment in our last briefing to them. The target areas, as previously adopted through resolution and to be adopted further through ordinance, are designed to be in urban areas that target creation and incentivize multifamily in areas that support an urban environment that provides the transportation public services that are necessary for a vibrant multifamily program. The city has submitted the project with Commerce and has since been approved in September. And as this is a land use decision, the project did not require a SEPA review. The project complies with all the elements of the comprehensive plan, including land use elements, housing elements, and economic elements that are provided in my full staff report. And as I described, we have provided additional GIS mapping to better reflect the adopted target areas. Given that, I believe if council has any further questions regarding my presentation, I believe that we have spoken about this at length, and that if it be so, council may adopt this amendment as written. And sorry, I don't mean to be nervous.
You're doing great, Sabrina.
So sorry. But given as written, it is up to council's determination to ask any questions or to make a resolution to pass the ordinance as written. I believe we will still, of course, take public comment if there is any public comment.
Great job, Sabrina. Do I have any council questions of staff? See, Sabrina, you did so awesome. They don't even have a question. Okay, So with that, we'll go ahead and open the floor for public comments from the audience. If there's anybody out there that has a comment about this subject, the multifamily housing, go ahead and raise your hand or say your first name and I will recognize you.
Mayor, this is Dylan Sluter from Master Builders.
Dylan, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'll be really brief on this. The Master Builders Association supports the multifamily tax exemption program, and we would obviously urge your support in passing this ordinance. The main thing I've heard as far as feedback is this can be the make or break on projects. I've heard projects that wouldn't have went forward without this MFT program in place. So this will provide opportunities for more feasibility, more opportunities for more projects. Ultimately, the goal is to get more of them to pencil and to get more housing units and more affordability within the city. And we appreciate the council's adoption of this, hopefully, and look forward to working with you on future items as well. But thank you so much, and we encourage the adoption.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Any other comments, any other public comments? Raise your hand or say your first name for me. I am not seeing any raised hands nor hearing any first names. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comments portion of this hearing and ask for further comments by staff.
This is Angie. I just want to extend my thanks to Sabrina in working on this, putting all of the effort into making this happen and advocating for this. I appreciate all the information. I feel like we've had really great discussions and, really been briefed thoroughly on this information, and just want to say thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to echo that and just add, Sabrina, you did a great job. I know it's always difficult to do these public presentations when you're not used to doing them all the time. You did great. Don't worry.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you, Sabrina. We really are.
You're gonna make me blush.
Okay, any other comments for Sabrina or from Sabrina?
I'm happy to move this forward tonight. Great work, Sabrina. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, perfect. Then I will go ahead and close the public hearing portion of this and ask for action from the council.
I would move to approve ordinance number 1103 with the development of multifamily housing tax exemption for Lake Stevens.
I would like to second that.
Okay, I have a motion of passing ordinance 1103 multifamily housing tax exemption program regulations for Lake Stevens, and I have a second as well. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, motion passes. Well done, Sabrina. Well done.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Excellent. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to a public hearing for ordinance 1101, which is the 2021 budget. And with that, I'll open the public hearing and ask for a staff report from Barb and Josh.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you give me sharing real quick?
Mayor, you're
Yeah.
the host. Can you do that? Thank you.
Oh, wait a second. No, hold on a second. I don't want to give you host. I want to give you co-host. Bam. All right, you got it.
All right. Okay. There we go. You can see that?
No.
No? Did it go away? Yeah, I closed something.
Mayor, I'm gonna, can you make me the host?
Well, let me try it again.
Kelly, you sound like you're 3 billion miles away.
Really? It's interesting. Okay.
There we go. You can see that now, right? Okay, good evening. We are at the second reading of the 2021 budget and the second and final public or potentially final public hearing. And I'm going to kind of follow in Sabrina's footsteps. We've gone over this a lot of council meetings. I've only have one change to the budget. At the November 10th meeting, we added one item. So just an overview here, the 2021 proposed budget for all funds is going to be $39,610,191. The only proposed change that we made at the November 10th meeting was to add some funding to the senior center. So all of your budget materials reflects that. We added 20,000 to the senior center for 2021. And we haven't talked about it, but that money can be dispersed at any time you guys decide for next year. So the timing hasn't been decided, but the amount as in the budget. My slides here, just from a high level, just to recap, the positions we're adding here. The biggest ones are two police officers that we're going to hire that will be hired later in the year, a public works supervisor for streets, and application analyst, which we'd start right away in January. So those are the main positions that are funded in the budget. Here is the giant org chart that just shows those positions that we're adding in this light green color for 2021. And here's the same kind of recommended list that I've gone through many times, just a high level of most of the new items that are requested this year for 2021, and the bigger kind of roll forward items that are not capital. I went through kind of capital a lot on multiple presentations, so I didn't provide that this time. But overall, the 2021 budget is the same as November 10th, except for the addition of the $20,000 for the senior center. And all we're looking for tonight is the approval of the second reading of the budget and the adoption of the budget, or as proposed or as amended. And that's all I have tonight.
Josh, when you say amended, does that include the $20,000 for the senior center? Is that already been incorporated?
Yeah, it's the only thing that was added since the last meeting was the senior center contribution.
I was just wondering, Josh, if when do we determine when that would be available to them? Is that a later discussion?
Well, that's why I was just saying, it's budgeted. And so the council can decide. The timing is up to you guys. We didn't really discuss the timing, but that you guys, you guys could decide to do it January 1st or halfway through the year or whatever.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for Josh? Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor for public comments from the audience. Let me get to a different spot here. Okay, so with that, we're going to open the floor for public comments from the audience. Is there anybody who wishes to speak on this subject, which is the budget for 2021? If so, raise your hand or say your first name for me and I'll recognize you. Are there any comments from the public reference the 2021 budget? Looking for a raised hand or a first name. Okay, I'm not seeing any raised hands or first names or hearing first names. So with that, we'll go ahead and close public comments portion of the hearing. Josh, do you have any further comments?
No, I just want to say thank you for the council. I think we did, even though it's a hard year next year, we're not quite sure, a lot of uncertainty, but I think we were able to fund some good stuff for next year. So I'll just thank the council. And overall, I thought it was a pretty good budget process this year. And I filled in for Barbara this year. So maybe next year, maybe not, but I just want to thank the council and say have a happy Thanksgiving.
I think Josh did a great job this year, and you know, it was really nice break from it, so he can continue on.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Josh stepped up when he needed to, and I absolutely appreciate that. And just shows great teamwork within our finance department.
Agreed.
Okay, any other questions for Josh or for Barb on the budget?
Just a really quick comment. As a first-time council member, I really appreciated the time Barb and Josh especially took to really walk through the information and make sure that we all had plenty of time to ask questions and sort of understand the process. So I felt really comfortable with the process and really appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember quite a few years ago when I was first on the council, it felt like we were drinking from a fire hose. So totally understand your comments, Angie. And I think that Josh did a wonderful job this year on the budget. I think that the city is well prepared to meet 2021 on head on and still be able to take forward what we've been trying to accomplish for the past 10 years.
I'd like to chime in. Great job. And Angie, what you said is just a great testament to how great our finance department does in preparing the council for moving forward. In 2021, we are going to have a lot of financial challenges moving forward. And as budgets get tighter and as we have more needs in the city as we grow, looking at budget and understanding how budget line items work, as we have new council members who join and so forth, the information they put forward is really so valuable. And I just want to say great job, finance department. Josh, great job. Barb Stevens, as always, great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and ask for action by the council.
Make a motion to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 1101 and would ask that the senior center expenditure be given to the senior center on January 15th, I believe.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to pass ordinance 1011 with the funds allocated for the senior center to be allocated on January 15th. And I have a second. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Hearing no opposed, Marcus passes.
I passed. Thank you.
You passed, Marcus. Well done. We have a motion passes. Okay. So with that, let's move on to action items. And let me get myself organized first.
Oh, good. We get to hear from Shannon.
I know. She's right on the spot, right up front.
2 weeks in and she's already reporting to the council.
Yeah. No slack.
Didn't see any reason to cut her any slack.
No slack given. All right. So there you go. We got action item H, professional services agreement with Davido Consulting Group, Inc. Shannon and Aaron.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the sort of the official handoff from me to Shannon. I carried this project for a few months, but I'm very excited to hand it off to Shannon because I have several other projects that I'm leading, and this is a good one for her, given her expertise. So at the November 10th meeting, we shared the outcome of the lake outlet study with you during a 45-minute or so presentation. And we found several things during that lake outlet study. The existing weir and downstream channel do not provide hydraulic control for the lake during the wet season or the dry season. There's likely a backwater condition from Catherine Creek that exacerbates the flooding that we experience downtown. During intense rain events, the outlet channel along Hartford Drive is inadequate to accommodate high flows. I wasn't downtown today, but I imagine it was nearing capacity or will be soon. And low-lying areas at 18th and 20th Street lack capacity and tend to create backwater issues and local flooding. So that was the outcome of the study. And then we had prioritized projects. And what we've done, and I'm going to pass it off here shortly to Shannon, is we've worked with David O Consulting Group, the consultant that prepared the lake outlet study, to create a scope of work and a fee proposal that begins to address the problems downtown. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Shannon.
Thanks, Aaron. I just want to say good evening to everyone again. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to present to you today. So as Aaron mentioned, 2 weeks ago, David O Consulting Group addressed council with a summary of the Lake Stevens outlet findings. In those findings, several alternatives were found to address the issues of the lake level management, the flooding downtown, and some infrastructure improvements to address those issues. So what we have here tonight that I included in the staff report is a scope of work that really is the initial step to addressing some of these issues. Included in the scope of work is updating the 1999 hydraulic model between the Lake Stevens outlet channel and Catherine Creek. In updating this model, the particular thing that needs to be updated is the land use changes. As many of you know, here in Lake Stevens, from between 1999 and now, there's been significant development, which alters flow paths, increases impervious surface. And so that model is really outdated. And in order to really design a project that we can be effective for current conditions and future conditions, as far as mitigating flooding downtown along Hartford Drive and really developing an outlet control system, we need to understand those interactions better. So included in the scope of work is updating that model for the land use changes. It's also looking at the outlet control facility that we have now, the existing weir, and developing 3 different alternatives for updating that system. The outcome of the model will help determine from those possible alternatives which one to go with. And then as a deliverable from the scope of work, we'll have a 30% design of the outlet control system and rehabilitation of the outlet of the Lake Stevens outlet channel. Now, a 30% design, the scope of work is only taking it to 30% design for a couple reasons. David O Consulting will assist the city in public outreach, and this will really allow us to connect with the stakeholders early on to be able to design the project further with stakeholders' input. We don't want to get too far down the path with, a 60% or a final design without getting that input from stakeholders such as the tribes, the Corps, Fish and Wildlife. And that's one of the reasons. The other thing included in the scope of work is David O Consulting will help us address or identify grant funding opportunities to hopefully be able to fund the remaining design and construction of this project. The other task that's included in this scope is looking at some flood mitigation improvements along Hartford Drive. And then the same thing, bringing some of those design measures to a 30% design to be able to get it through permitting and bringing it to the public for any kind of stakeholder input, then looking for alternative sources of funding through grant opportunities. So just to recap, this is just the initial step to move forward with identified projects that came out of that Lake Stevens outlet study. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Thank you, Shannon and Aaron. Don't want to forget Aaron. Aaron, you've done a great job on this, but I know you've been working on it for months. Shannon, it's great to have you on board again. Thank you for your presentation. I do have a question about Hartford Drive. Reading through the materials, I didn't see too much about I realize you need to go to design and things, but the one thing that struck me was it says we're going to raise the level of Hartford Drive. That doesn't seem, just on the face of it to me, that that's going to help the flood area. It's just going to help not flooding the road. And we've got some people that live down there that are being flooded out. What are we going to be doing in this design to help that problem?
Absolutely. So, and I'm going to let Aaron chime in if I forget anything, but let me try to address your question. So you bring up a good point. Just raising the road isn't going to necessarily help the residents that live on that north end of Hartford Drive. What raising the road there does, and what this scope of work is proposing, is raising the road in this low-lying area, and then also updating the stormwater system there. So there's, I believe there's a culvert there that goes underneath. And so a part of this too is doing this study. So we need to be able to understand the interaction of this Catherine Creek backwater issue, because that backwater issue is what could be causing a lot of the flooding there north of Hartford Drive. And so if we do raise the grade of the road and then update the stormwater conveyance system underneath the road there, will that get rid of it? Will we not have some additional backwater issues up against Hartford Road? The other thing is looking at some of the other stormwater conveyance systems that's north of that by the fire station, if any of that will alleviate it. You know, it's hard to say now, which is why this study, this additional model is really key to the whole design process, because we need to know what is it that's causing that flooding area. I mean, that is a wetland there. And so it's natural that it would flood, but is it being exacerbated by our infrastructure? And if so, you know, what can we do to that infrastructure to mitigate that? So that second task that's outlined in the scope of work for the Hartford Drive, raising the grade of the road, that also includes looking at that stormwater conveyance system in hopes that that would alleviate some of that flooding there on that north end for those residents. But also coupled with that is really looking at those model results and being able to design that Hartford Road mitigation projects to address what the current situation is, and then also really looking at possible future situations. You know, development is continuing here in Lake Stevens, so that's one of the main reasons to update this model and be able to look at current and future conditions.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. I was hoping that's what it was, because just raising the road wasn't going to help it.
I agree. And Aaron, did you have anything else to add?
I don't really. I think, Shannon, you did a great job explaining it, given your 2 weeks in. I think the system's really interesting, Councilmember Daughtry. I think that we don't understand how those two subbasins or basins are interacting and when they're interacting. We know that there's water over Hartford Drive, and at some point it's backwatering from Catherine Creek. But then, if you look at photos, you can also see during some period it's flowing over the road from the lake outlet into Catherine Creek or into the wetland. And so I think updating this 99 model is really critical to understand how these two subbasins are interacting.
Hey, and Councilmember Daughtry, one of the things that we haven't talked about, and there's a reason why it's not in this study, is the study of the culvert at Catherine Creek where it meets the outflow. That's actually being done by Salmon Solutions. So it's not part of our study, but we are coordinating with that study because that culvert's a key spot. I think we went out and looked at it, Aaron, the other day, and it was what, a 36-inch pipe trying to drain Catherine Creek. I mean, it's very, very small for what it should be. So part of the study, but not part of this study, is the Salmon Solutions look at that culvert.
So they're just looking at it right now. There's no plan in place to enlarge that culvert.
I believe their grant is a study and a design. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron.
That's correct. And Grace Kane, our city engineer, has been the lead on coordinating that effort. It's actually two 36-inch culverts, corrugated metal pipe culverts. one is lower than the other. You can imagine they're kind of stacked like this side by side. So one is sort of handling the everyday flow, and it's right now full. I bet it's totally full. And then you sort of have an overflow culvert, and it's simply not adequate for the amount of water you have working.
So is the grant that Sound Salmon Solutions has for that study, is that for 30% design?
No,
right now, this is Grace at City. I'm here listening. So yes, the grant is for 100% design, but they are running into challenges, just like we are with the Tulalip Tribe culvert. And so the grant is 100%, but Gray and Osborne, which is a consultant for Sound Salmon, it's running into some budget problems. So I'm in the back end trying to push to get us the 100% plan as much as I could, being not the grantee.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Grace. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Peter Sagan.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councilmember Dickinson had her hand up first.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
That's okay. First of all, thank you, Aaron. Thank you to Grace, and watch out, Shannon. You have come into a huge task. I'm so grateful you're here. But one of the things I would love to, you got nothing else to do, I want you to look at how all the development above the lake is impacting the flow into the lake. You talked about impervious surfaces being increased, and maybe there's something that the council can do in what happens in developments that might help mitigate that problem. I'm watching trees get cut down all over the place up here and up near Soper Hill, and I'm just wondering if maybe there's something that maybe we need to think about to help this ongoing problem that's been around for decades. Just a thought, and support on that would be something I'd love to try and find out more about. Thank you.
Good, Councilmember Peter Sagan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In hearing the presentation, what is it, a week or two ago, and also tonight, I think there's a missing component that's going on here, and that is an evaluation of the fiscal impacts as to, we were presented with a fix of about $5.2 million, of which we as a city don't have that kind of money, so we're always searching for grants. And contrary to popular opinion, grants are not free money. They always come with strings attached. So I would hope that as we get down this road a little bit, and hopefully sooner rather than later, is that we look at a key component, and that is acquiring the properties that are being impacted. As Shannon stated, there's about 5 properties that are impacted tremendously, and this isn't an overnight phenomenon. It did not happen in the last couple of years. As Shannon indicated, these areas are wetlands, and they have been for a number of years. In today's regulatory environment, those houses simply would not be built in that environment. So I would hope that we, whether it be staff or consultant or whatever, that we look at a fiscal analysis as to what it would cost to acquire those 5 properties versus what we're potentially going to spend to improve some things, which Councilmember Daughtry talked about, raising the road, which doesn't do anything for those 5 properties other than give them access. So we may be in a situation where acquiring these properties is a lot cheaper than spending $5 million to fix potentially a problem. So I hope that we consider that as part of our evaluation.
I would agree with Councilmember Peter Sagan. That is such a great solution to this, and looking at being able to, whatever we can do with those, maybe we can do wetland credits, a lot of different things we might be able to do with those properties as well. This might be a really great opportunity for us to make decisions that benefit our community and and solve a solution at the same time and stop too much cost for these properties. I think a great solution, Councilmember Peter Sagan. I totally agree with what you're saying right now. That has been on my mind quite a bit. So thank you.
That's an interesting idea. I'm curious to know though, are we pursuing this this work simply because of those 5 properties, or are there other reasons to look at mitigating the flooding that's occurring?
Eric, go ahead.
Very, very good point, Councilmember Peter Shagan. I just want to say that we are definitely going to be looking at that as part of our mitigation. But that channel hasn't been cleaned in 50 years, and it's just flat full of sediment, and that isn't going away. It's going to continue to get worse. So whether you buy the properties or you don't, that culvert needs to be replaced. The stormwater work needs to be done. The culvert under 20th Northeast needs to be fixed. It's infrastructure that is old and outdated and failing. And the channel, as you know, with all channels like that, they build up sediment over time. And so the floor level of those, the bottom keeps raising and raising and raising. And at some point, that affects the lake level. So I agree with the high price tag and looking at the cost, and maybe it's less work that we would have to do if we acquire those properties, but the work still needs to be done. I don't think there's any way that we can get away with not addressing that channel and changing the elevations to be able to manage the high flows better. I think it's a combination, but we got some failing infrastructure, and I don't just think buying the properties is going to at least make me turn a blind eye, bury our mistake type of thing, and not fix the things that need to be fixed. So that work really needs to happen, regardless of the properties or not. That it's just some failing infrastructure, and channels need to be cleaned occasionally, and that work still needs to be done.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something else. So, these are great ideas that we can definitely look at further before we get too far into the whole suite of mitigation projects that were proposed in the original lake outlet study. The scope of work that's in front of you today is not only addressing just raising that road to prevent flooding on the road. It's also looking at the outlet control system. And so I'm not sure if you recall the graph that was displayed 2 weeks ago that shows the lake level management target for the year, and then the actual lake level management. And so one of the things that we're running into with the current weir and outlet system is in the winter months, we're not able to let out enough water in order to create a larger amount of storage, which could definitely help with flooding downstream when we get these large rain events. If we're able to create more storage, that would prevent an overflow possibly on the outlet channel across the road. The other thing is that we would be able to manage for the summer base flows better. So the scope of work that you have in front of you today does address that outlet control system and the outlet channel, which would help with the lake level management issues that are being experienced. And Eric, I think you probably have something to contribute to that.
I do, not to that particularly, Shannon, but particularly to the price tag. So some council members remember, we got some new ones, but a couple of years back when we did this stormwater rate study, this is not a new problem. This was totally on our radar screen and been on my radar screen for years since I came to the city of Lake Stevens, was this downtown issue. These projects were brought forward at the rate study. We did have discussions about these large capital projects that needed to be completed. So we have accounted for them. And if you go back and look at that rate study, we discussed the option of actually bonding significant stormwater projects, doing some kind of a revenue bond And with the rates paying for that to be able to complete some of these big ones, knowing that we're not going to have an influx of cash to be able to perform these large stormwater projects that we have. And downtown's not the only one, but we did have a discussion. We have known about these huge expenses. We addressed them with the rate study and the structure that we brought forward. So, I mean, I would say all options are on the table to kind of look at the big picture, trying to keep the cost as low as possible, obtain as many grants as possible, but it may be a situation where we need to look at some additional funding to get us there.
I guess I would ask this question, Eric, and Marcus could probably answer this since he's probably more familiar with it, just observation wise, but doing all this work affects the lake level more than these 5 properties. The flooding of these 5 properties occurred before all this development took place. Again, this isn't an overnight situation. So I guess the question is, we spend $5.5 million. Are these 5 properties still going to flood? And I think the answer is yes, they will still flood. So what, at the end of the day, we've spent a ton of money and we've still got 5 property owners that are flooded out.
Yeah.
I think that would be my concern. That's why, Gary, when you said, hey, let's look at purchasing these, and there might be other things we can do with these, another dog park, rec area, other stuff we can do with these properties. I don't know. I just think we can repurpose these properties. There's no perfect solution for this, but I mean, as much as we'd like to think that the culverts and pipes and everything else will change it, Gary, I couldn't be more agreeable with you. We can have an extremely rainy season and still have these problems moving forward. And I think solving this problem and perhaps getting these 5 property owners taken care of, I think it's good for the community, but I think we can also repurpose these properties for other things, whether it's wetland credits or dog parks or who knows, whatever. I don't know what you can do with these properties, but I think we can be creative, and the city always does the most we can with what we've got. So Gary, I couldn't agree with you more. There's that concern that no matter what, we're always going to have issues with these properties.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anyway, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Just don't want to lose sight of last year. We had historic highs in the lake levels, and the amount of calls that we've got of people's docks underwater and the waves destroying people's docks, and without lowering the elevation of that channel and making some improvements there, that's going to continue to get worse. More sediment will build up, lake levels will get higher and higher and higher till we have massive damage to properties around the lake. So there's kind of 2 different issues there that we're looking at. This just isn't 5 properties on Hartford Drive and a little bit of water over the road at Hartford. This is a widespread. We need to be able to keep this lake level at a manageable level in the wintertime. I don't know, call it not global warming, but climate change and development and the perfect storm of things. You know what, if that lake level gets much higher than what we've seen last year, we're going to have some other stormwater issues of things that don't flow and impact other areas of town. So we were right at the max last year, higher than it's ever been. And I'm afraid without addressing that channel, and it's a pretty basic math calculation. You got width and depth times velocity, and it can only move so much water. I mean, and when there's more water than that, it causes an issue. But I agree with, great discussion of what everybody's had to say tonight. And we're going to look at all of those things, I assure you, to come up with the most cost-effective solution to bring back some projects that actually make a difference and aren't just kicking the can down the road. So,
Eric, I don't want for a minute to think that I don't think that we need to address the channel and so forth as well. I don't want you to think that that's not what I'm saying. I just think we can create the best solution moving forward with the channel buying the properties or not buying the properties. We can fix that channel, but at the end of the day, we're going to continue to see water. I think that's what Washington State's all about, is how much water can we move and flow, and water follows the path of least resistance. And these properties happen to be a lot of the path of least resistance. So I don't want to talk about this too much more tonight, but I agree with you. There's a lot of solutions. I think we'll find the best one moving forward, and look at all the challenges that coming forward with us, and make a great decision. But I love the solution you have. But Gary, I agree with you. I don't think these properties are ever going to be out of harm's way. So.
I'll throw in a couple more things here. I did direct staff to put together a meeting within the next couple of weeks of the major stakeholders that would need to be signing off on this study and moving forward. That'd be the tribes, as well as the Corps, and whoever else needs to be at that table, FEMA, so that we can get their input right up front before we really get deep into a study, and so we can hopefully get some agreements beforehand, so that we're not coming back to being told no down the road, right? And then the other thing I want to let council members know, we are working some temporary solutions. Eric found a used sandbag loader that we're going to try to pick up, so we can do some sandbagging easier, get some sandbags out this flooding season to help out for some temporary fixes as well. So we've got some temporary things going on, as well as this study for the long-term fix.
Mayor, I'm assuming you mentioned all the stakeholders. It's Sean. I heard you mention FEMA, so I'm assuming you're thinking about things like flood mitigation assistance grants and things like that. Absolutely. So there's probably lots of opportunities there. So I look forward to hearing what you come back with. You know, I come from a place that's pretty familiar with flooding and the whole FEMA process. So good luck, happy hunting. I look forward to seeing a great product coming back. Obviously, the study needs to be done, in at least in my mind, to understand the problem that we're facing here in Lake Stevens and make sure that we take care of our infrastructure.
Yeah, and I'd like to say I'm grateful that the council's willing to step up, and this has been pushed off for too long, way too long, and it's time to take care of it. And I'm glad the council's willing to step up. And
well, with that, Mr. Mayor, I would move to authorize you to sign a professional services agreement with
take it on
Consulting
and figure out a
Group.
solution.
What?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And any opposed? Excellent. So with that, we come to the end of our agenda for the evening, and I'm looking for Marcus. We did an hour and 8 minutes, my friends.
Fastest meeting that I feel like we've ever.
Yeah, no, it was 16 minutes is the fastest we've ever had. And you weren't there, Marcus.
We were pretty close. With that, can I
it's the holiday season. Everyone's getting ready for Thanksgiving. I mean, who's not decorating and making pumpkin pie tonight? I don't even know who.
Me. I'm not.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I get a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Again, I appreciate working. We got a great team moving the city forward, and I appreciate everyone's efforts. Make sure it's holiday season. Try to reach out to those who may be in need. Give a little service where you can, and help your neighbor out.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.